So this is the OXG recap of the DFK AMA from February 28th. It wasn't too many of the updates, basically just a better explanation and update on like the perilous journey and some stuff on that. The main takeaway that they said right at the top of it was that they've expanded the amount of Gen Zeros that are being allocated to the perilous journey from 50 to 200. So 4xing the amount. That's 100 for the surviving heroes and 100 for the dead heroes, or for the heroes that don't survive the perilous journey. So that was like a really big thing. I mean, obviously they're just really massively upgrading the incentive to do that. I've heard a couple people talk about, let's call it 150,000 heroes are out there right now. Some people think do 10% go, 20%, 30% go. I don't know that there's going to be more than 10,000 personally, but the way in which they're doing it is that the journey is going to take about 10 days. And then before the journey starts, there's a 5-day window to like sign up for it. So one of the things I've heard, one of the interesting caveats is like, you don't want to like sign up first or like on day one. First example being that you're giving up like 5 days of questing time if you don't wait till the 5th day to go for it. And then the other thing I've heard is that there will probably be some community developer that creates some type of calculator where during that 5-day window, you'll be able to see how many people are, or how many heroes are kind of signing up for the perilous journey. It's like right now, all the speculation of like the odds. So it's like, it's great that they 4x, they 4x it. So 200 Gen Zeros can now be won through the raffle system, but it's really, it's never not going to be favored towards the whales. It's an interesting, statistic to this is going to be how many people actually sign up for it. And so with that 5-day window of like a sign up period, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But just my personal take on that is like, I wouldn't sign up for the first day. And then the other thing too, on the other side of that is then whether your hero survives or not is the other 10 days of questing. So that's just like another thing of like opportunity cost when to think about it. I'll read what Frisky Fox said here. We did the Perilous Journey AMA with Hubert last Wednesday. There's an update there. Early on, we had a lot of crazy ideas to incentivize this. Some were included and others didn't make the cut. In the end, we had to take away some of those really cool incentives and replace those instead with other equally cool incentives. Generally, we'd like to scale up the number of Gen Zero heroes awarded. Part of this is because our transition to instead of just having a blanket sale for these Gen Zeros, we are in a situation now where there's a lot of players, everyone knows the value, and there's a lot less speculation and a lot more tried and true ROI. We want to reward the players of this game with the sale rather than just going into the coffers of the game like the prior Gen Zero mint. We wanted ways where the majority of the Gen Zeros for Crystal Veil are given out in a game or for in-game actions to incentivize playing the game. Basically saying that a lot more average players will have a chance of getting this. And I kind of agree with that. Now that we all know kind of the value and how powerful Gen Zeros are, like them trying to list it as a price I could never see that working. Making it more of just like this type of player incentivized, hero incentivized, average player gets a chance, fair chance type of thing. Just seems to be what it is. A lot of what they went in the AMA or what they covered in the AMA was the new voting mechanisms. So I'll just kind of paraphrase a little bit of this. So basically, so far, people that could vote were ex-jewel holders. And, what we were talking about even in the guild general chat last night is like there's a different type of player that owns and accrues a jewel or ex-jewel versus those that play the game, own the heroes, and so on and so forth. And so what they've done is they've made it where not only ex-jewel holders are voters or have voting rights, but heroes now also have voting rights. There was a little bit of controversy in how much so basically one hero equals like 15 ex-jewel, I think, in terms of like the voting power. So I guess, one of the community members brought up that it was never deliberated within the community of how much a hero was worth for its voting right. That was kind of like a closed door conversation by the core team. But nonetheless, the fact that heroes are worth voting rights was kind of the difference or the update right now. So I guess there's a little bit more stuff to be had there, but that was like a big thing. Let's see, Dreamer came on to say, also wanted to add some clarification as well. It's really exciting that we are increasing the overall rewards in Perilous Journey, imagining that you could send a common hero and whether they survive or die, you could potentially win a Gen 0 hero that will have new classes and new genes. We are not increasing the amount of Gen 0 heroes for Crystal Vale, only the allocation that are being given away for the Perilous Journey. If you thought it was worth it to risk your heroes before, it's even more worth it now. Okay, salesman Dreamer. So to the grant program, said working hard to get this finalized. Sunbear has been working on submissions. There is one that we want to progress starting today, which we'll get to. I'm sure everyone's aware of the DFK arena. Said, let me recap the process. Essentially, that we will try to start essentially what we will try to start doing and what we may adjust is that we will announce in the AMA new grant proposals that we will submit to the community. These have been submitted, reviewed by Sunbear with the applicants. Usually it's a 5 to 10 page PDF. It's reviewed internally, and we are going back and forth with many of them on how to refine and how we can support them on the proposal. Today, we will open a channel. We will drop in the proposal from the team as well as details from us on what we've done. It will have the amount, the proposal, how the grant will be used, etc. Then on Friday, a vote will open and remain open until the AMA on Monday, and we will announce on the AMA if the vote passed. So it'll be a weekly situation. Every AMA, they're thinking about announcing a new proposal and then concluding that by the following Monday. So everyone, I think, knows or should know that the current proposal is this kind of third-party one-on-one combat game called DFK Arena, and that is currently being discussed in the DFK server right now. So Sunbear says that we are proposing DFK Arena. That's everything I just said. It's a combat game utilizing our hero NFTs, gold to be wagered as well as jewel in terms of like betting. It's a 1v1 combat situation. It's very exciting. When I get it posted in the channel, you'll be able to see the proposal put together as a collaborative process by the team that is applied. Now, things to note is that, if you have read through some of the questions and answers from the DFK Arena devs, they've actually been in contact with DefiKingdoms since November. So I don't know. It's like, it isn't like they were like, hey, look at this grant proposal we got from our grant proposal announcement. It was like, hey guys, we're going to create a grant proposal and go ahead and apply. But it is what it is right now. Dreamer says this will be a good example of the ways that we can look at the tokens and the resources in DefiKingdoms and find something fun to do. And so that was the end of the AMA. And one thing I'm going to mention that I think one of the people that asked the question was like, it seems like there was a lot of focus on what the DFK's game was and what they were doing. And then, it's focused on 3v3 combat and working on your teams. And, it's all this focus. And then for them to kind of come out and say, our focus is to make the heroes as applicable as possible in the metaverse and to have them be what they basically are saying is to have as much utility now also doesn't just mean as much utility within the DefiKingdoms game, but outside of the DefiKingdoms game. And I feel like that's a big distinction. That last part is outside of the DefiKingdoms game. And I don't know that we were I wasn't aware, seeing that around the corner, but that's kind of what this all is about, this grant program. So the skeptic would say they're filling in because they need something now while they're delaying their own developments or something like that. Whereas I think the optimistic is saying they're just wanting, it's additive. It's not in replace of or in lieu of or something like that. So it's just more, and more equals utility in this situation. So that's their position on it. But I also think it's kind of a little bit of a shift in position, or at least a shift in clarity or a difference in clarity. So just kind of how I feel about it right now. To the written questions. So first I want to go back to Frisky Fox for a moment. We've had a variety of questions, both about the private hire functionality as well as the sales auction functionality. Frisky Fox says, I spent some time this morning on auctions, actually. I love working on this project. It's so fun. We are actively working on reactivating private hire auctions. We are also working on a new smart contract functionality to add new auction functions, i.e. setting a price at the high end that will reduce over a set amount of time. We had that set up before, but had issues with the contract and everything else like that. Oh yeah, one of the big things we're all waiting for is the stamina recharge. So Bolan says, listening to people who know how to code, it sounds like stamina refresh is an interesting one. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm kind of skipping around here. He said he was working on the stamina rework, which he spent most of the weekend working on. And so Bolan just ad-libbed saying, it sounds like it's a lot from the coding aspect. Next question. I think it would be great to be able to add notes and flags to heroes to be able to better manage and filter individual heroes. So Beetle Dude says, yes, we are working on this so that you can sign in with a wallet address and be able to tag your heroes with a system that allows you to look for all heroes that fall under a certain tag or whatever category you set up. That is one of them, as well as getting notifications into a better spot where you can manage notifications better based on a wallet and keep it on a database. No timeline yet, but it's definitely on the roadmap, and we know people would enjoy having this in the future. Next question is, in the smart contracts for quest time, are we using block times or seconds to measure completion of the quest? The answer is they are using timestamps, so it's in seconds and not block time or block speed. Would be a great time to plan sync games to give people something to do in between quests to have more entertainment value in between stamina refresh. So Sunbear says there are a lot of grant applications related to this. You will probably see some stuff on this in the next few weeks. Dreamer says more directly and immediately, the DFK arena. I see a lot of people speculating on what might be involved in terms of modest betting. They've definitely thought of that, and we've thought of that with them. And these are just some of the examples of things we can do, both natively as well as building relationships with the community via the grant program. And Bolan says, we do have things in the works ourselves. We have a lot we plan on adding, but this is also a big part of where our grant program comes in, where they can make things that interact with our game but aren't built by us. Last but not least, we get a couple live AMA questions. So the one and only Metez says, you already started discussing, but wanted to ask from a more general view specifically for gameplay. You notice that the Perilous Journey is a form of quest that has a completely different format from the currently implemented form of quest. You said current quests are not at all what the long-term game will be. Can you tell us more about the long-term vision of the gameplay? I think Frisky Fox really has already answered this, but basically the current quests are short-term staking. There's going to be longer form staking. Could be with on the land plots, could be with the adventure quests. And Dreamer kind of said that the way they always have thought about it was a fishing quest, it realistically is you might fish for 20 minutes and see if you catch something. But you wouldn't go into a gold mine and mine for 20 minutes. You'd probably spend a couple hours in the gold mine. And so that was kind of the analogy they used, or the metaphor they used to explain why they kind of used the kind of timing mechanisms for the different kind of short-term staking for the quests that we have today. So I guess, and that's a lore-based thing that they're really adamant about. So I guess when you think of it from the lore perspective, it's what kind of quote unquote takes longer time to do something. And so maybe if it's building a land or not land, building a building or building whatever, that might be a multi-day thing where you have to stake or quest your hero for some amount of time, as opposed to just throwing maybe some materials or resources at it. That could be different ways I would imagine it. So they talk about the land tournaments. What land tournaments is one of the things that people are deciding with the Perilous Journey. So basically there's only going to be 8 land tournaments that are in terms of for the Perilous Journey for the surviving heroes. So one of the incentives is that there are going to be exclusive land tournaments for only the surviving heroes to compete for. And of course, if your hero also survives, you get 15, plus 15 stamina points, and basically a whole new level. And so there's a crazy competitive advantage for the heroes that survive the Perilous Journey. And so I think if you were a big combat person, if you're a big PvP person, and this is why or how you're thinking of playing DeFi Kingdoms, the Perilous Journey might be a lot more motivating for you. If it's more about just 15 days of not questing your hero and the chance to lose it, it's if it's more of a passive income play, that could be a different incentive, to not do it. Or if you're a smaller wallet, that might be a different reason to not do it. So anyways, Frisky says land tournaments haven't released a lot of details. Similar to pay-to-earn game, rewards will be proportionate to what you put in, but we are trying to make it so that average players can get it. do you have a higher chance if you have more assets to throw at it? Yes, it's hard to get away from that completely, but Hubert has some pretty cool ideas about that and might have some things he will want to say. So Hubert says, to trying to clarify a few things, we haven't solidified the number of tournaments that will be exclusive to Perilous Journey survivors. It won't be more than 8, and it will be the first 8 available in the map, and not ones that are revealed in the future. We aren't going to be able to release the equations that drive how that LAN tournament works right now, but they are set up so that there will never be a 0% chance for a hero to succeed. Just saying that RNGs can always come in and have saving grace, as we all know. Another live question, but that's exactly the tournament. Most people don't have a lot of great heroes to send. Without the details, they can't make that decision, whereas a whale can send a lot of them. So while your response speaks to the general rationale of pay-to-earn economics, but doesn't give people the details that they need, Hubert responds saying that's understandable. We are working on it. There's only 8 going to be for Perilous Journey survivors, and the rest are available to everyone else. If there's not enough details for you to make that call, then save your best hero for the other LAN tournaments. Okay, another live question. For Perilous Journey and Crystal Rewards and some of the bank snapshots, are there going to be airdropped to us, and will they be locked in any sense, or will it all be, for all the Perilous Journey rewards, or will it be fully unlocked before the official liquidity pool launch on AVAX? Additionally, we've heard before that the single-sided jewel staking will be for a limited time period. For those of us planning ahead, can you tell us more about the mechanics of what that may look like? So Frisky says, the first question about airdrops for Crystal. Our plan is to get Crystal into the hands of people along with the launch. Going back and forth, if any of it will be locked. We haven't talked about it so much, but airdrops were intended to be most of the initial liquidity. So those of you winning this Crystal will probably be the ones that can provide most of the initial liquidity. There's also more that we plan to announce in terms of incentives. And he goes on to say it somewhere along this, that like part of why they've also been keeping things close to the chest or not like updating in a linear fashion is they're kind of preparing to like push up a few things at once. And so I think part of that's like the Crystal airdrop, the AVAX, the Crystal Veil expansion, the Perilous Journey kind of finalizing, the LAN tournaments. Like there's a couple things that kind of are going to be these moving parts that kind of all get it to where it needs to be in like one synchronized fashion. Dreamer says, just wanted to point out and highlight and emphasize something. We've talked about Gen Zeros. We've talked about Crystal. There is a theme here. We aren't trying to avoid direct sale of new NFTs and valuable tokens, but we are trying to find ways to cater to all players, whales, gardeners, jewelers, questers, to incentivize them for playing in the game. We see lots of projects asking what else they can sell. We are trying to create a strong culture and a multi-year roadmap. I welcome the questions and comments about how everything can be more fair, but we have to be aware of what we are trying to do. It's not just, hey, we know people that want Gen Zero, so let's sell them at a bunch at a certain price. We want to reward people actively playing. Making it a possibility for someone to win is still a benefit to small players. While you don't have as much as larger wallets, you at least have the possibility, and we hope that is appreciated. Frisky says, we spend a lot of time thinking about this. As a play-to-earn game, everything we do is to add utility to the game and to add value to the assets of the community. We have new things that could be sold. We are trying to add 100% of the value into the community rather than just being sold, so that the community are the recipients of the value rather than the developer team. Vaughn says, also on how we plan for this, I've been working with Raspberry Swirl and a few team members on how to prepare for all this. We aren't providing these as financial advice, but we will have clear documentation for you in the next coming weeks on exactly how this will all work out and how you can employ certain strategies. So that sounds like there's going to be I think then that might be, the beginning of the documentation for like the Crystal Veil, the documentation for the Crystal Veil, like unlocking or like that whole thing, the garden fee structure, all that stuff. So they might start even coming out with that. People have expressed concerns about liquidity drying up in Sarandale and making sure Sarandale can stay alive once Crystal Veil launches. Frisky says Dreamer can talk about this. So, I don't know if I need to read this verbatim, but basically everything is just designed to keep the value in Sarandale. For instance, you can't like buy Crystal at first. You can only get it by single staking jewel. Things like this. If people leave the Sarandale Gardens to go to Crystal Veil, consequentially, the garden APR in Sarandale go up. And so there's just going to be the ebb and flow of traders that are like going for yield chasing, APRs, just whatever. So, I mean, there's going to be pros and cons to all of it. I don't see it as being like a left barren land for like greener pastures, and that's all it is. They're functionally not designing it to work that way. Thanpolis, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, says, I remember when Quest came out for the first time. They mentioned that time for questing and stamina regen was extended to 8 hours. With the champion system, it sounded like the current questing system was not going to change. What I wanted to ask is that it's been established that questing as it is today is tedious and time consuming. It forces players to mindlessly click. If you can outsource that, is a great solution for large wallets. I've seen that narrative used by other GameFi projects that, it's not quote unquote playing the game. So he says, but a few questions. Number one, are you considering changing how quests happen, recognizing that the current quest could become obsolete someday and replaced with other things? So are there any plans to change that? A simple solution would extend quest and stamina regen from 8 hours to days. Number two, for champion system, will it be focused on profession quest or more on future functionality? And three, whether the champion program will be the only way to play if you don't own a hero. Frisky response. Quest right now, as you can see, are staking your hero for short periods of time and receiving rewards for staking. Oh, yes, this is the question I kind of front ran and was speaking on already. Many people have brought up the idea of staking for longer periods of time. We've considered this. We haven't come to a concrete conclusion of exactly what we're going to do with this yet. It's ever evolving. We're trying to find more ways to bring game aspects to this. Barris is our game director and has a lot of experience creating games. He has a philosophy about what makes a game fun. I thought this was interesting to hear them talk about, actually. He goes, some people like it for action, some people like it for social level, some people want it to be want to be the best and strategize. Game can be fun for various reasons. If you look at idle style versus strategy versus MMO, they all target different aspects on that scale. Ours is probably going to be focused on trying to win tournaments, trying to summon the rarest heroes, trying to have the best hero, social aspects with guilds. As we build more and more in the game, you'll see more and more of that come into play. That's what they're directing or targeting towards what they consider to be fun in a game. Dreamer follows up by saying, to answer it really simply, you don't have to have a hero to stake with the jeweler or gardens, but with Quest, you need to own the NFT. And so, yes, the champion system allows us to bridge that gap. Some people might see it as tedious and clicking. I think that if you want to completely remove that and you go fishing and go for 5 to 25 minutes, 5 to 20 minutes, you want to see what you caught. I already gave that bad example. He follows up with Thampolis asks one more question. In terms of governance and the last vote, talking about kind of like the value of the vote that the heroes get, being that it's only worth 10x jewel. We covered that. Actually, well, Frisky had a good answer. He said it wasn't like representative of the value of the hero. It was added utility to the hero. So Dreamer says, if you think linearly, yes, a hero is worth more than 16 jewel, but what if we say we want a hero to be worth 50x jewel voting power? Then who would stay in X jewel if they were in the jewel for purposes of voting? And they also said that would have like an influence on the pricing power of heroes if they were to say like, oh, it's worth this much as a vote. Closing remarks. Bear says, we have a lot of fun things ahead. Stick with us. We care about you. Beetle Dude says, excited to release some of these awesome features for you guys. Fawn says, our team is made up of so many different people from different backgrounds, mechanics, financial development, smart contracts. It's impressive how much we take community input. Anyways, all right, so that's it. So I don't know if you guys have checked this DFK arena or not, but man, they've kind of gotten hounded by the community, to be honest with you. I don't know how much they were expecting that or not. And I think it's good. I mean, I love that the DFK community just like doesn't put up with this like, blindly accepting or being like, ooh, new shiny feature, like we'll accept. There's just been like really aggressive due diligence and question and answering of the dev team with the community members of DFK. So it's been pretty interesting to see how it goes down, especially when it's like it's only a week process. It is like a voting situation. So like even theoretically you would say if it's not favorable to the majority of DFK players, like it clearly wouldn't get voted through. It's also like a new experiment to see what the community vote does for the future development of the game itself. I don't know if anyone wants to get into like their opinions of what they think the DFK arena is yet, but if you want to, feel free to unmute yourself and we can get into it. But I was going to leave it at that, at least for the AMA recap, for the recording purposes. But if we want to extend it, we definitely can. No one's got anything to say about old DFK arena? I don't really know what to think about it on a personal level. I can't tell. I mean, literally the first 24 hours of the thread was like all FUD. Like people like being like it's gonna the whole problem was them basically thinking that if heroes can gain XP and like all the stuff outside of like the quests and outside of the PvP, that obviously it was just gonna like invite all kinds of abuse of the game mechanics, and that there would be just all kinds of things going on. And so what wasn't clear, and what Frisky Fox this morning came and clarified in that thread, in that chat, was that everything is with the team, that there isn't ever going to be this like out of control from the DFK core team. Frisky Fox basically said that the other thing was that they weren't sure that like the stamina was going to be contingent with like the XP gained for whatever reason. So they were thinking like, you can go quest, fully quest, have no more stamina, and then go like betting with your hero and doing like 1v1 combats and like gaining XP while you're like heroes on like a stamina cooldown, which is like, that's not how it's gonna work. So it's kind of like, with the stamina thing, that always makes it like the chess game. It's like this or that, like you have a choice to make now. It's like, do you quest, or do you go to this third party like 1v1 like betting like combat thing? So that's kind of like interesting to think about. And then Frisky Fox said that you'll always be able to get the most experience from the DFK questing. So if you're like, okay, I'll take my chance at like trying to make more by betting, like I'm a betting man, so I'm gonna play it this way. But then you start losing a little bit. Your hero's not leveling up or gaining the XP. You're like, it might be a little bit of a safer bet to just like, I might not get like the biggest wagers from questing, but I'm getting more experience. I'm always at least getting a little something. So kind of like is interesting in that idea of that, like you have a choice to make of like, what's the better ROI for your hero. And then the other 2 cents I have on the DFK arena personally is like, what I think about is like the Pokemon. I don't know if was it Pokemon World or Mario World or Universe or something like that, where it's like there was this world of like game of games. So it's like the whole idea was like you can choose like one of 6 games to go play. Is DFK now going to become like this platform for other developers to then like build games or third party kind of like ancillary games on top of? You can play the main game, you can play this little side game, this little fun parlor game, and you can do things like that. So I don't know. I mean, everyone was looking at it extremely cynically the first 24 hours and was like, abuse, they're going to like scam, it's going to break down the game mechanics, I'm going to dump like all of my holdings and investment in this game because I can't believe the devs are like letting this go. I was like, whoa. And then Frisky Fox was like, guys, we're going to like control all the mechanics, like nothing's like, that's all I really have to say about that. So I don't know if anyone had 2 cents on that, but it's been an interesting situation to read.
I'm not sure how I feel about any third party anything, whether it's a game or like a casino or whatever it is. I don't know how I feel about any third party thing actually interacting with I actually like the idea of third party stuff like using the NFT heroes, but I don't know how I feel about them actually interacting with the XP, the stamina, the HP, MP. Like I really don't know how I feel about that. Like the concept is fine. For what I've seen, I don't know why they need 10 developers for what they presented. But the concept is kind of cool, but I really don't know how I feel about I don't know, just like XP and stamina and health, and that's gonna bring up things like health potions, and I don't know, it's strange to have that interact with the actual hero, like the NFT itself.
So I don't know anything about the HP and MP because we haven't seen any of that even in DefiKingdoms yet. So that I don't know anything of that. So if you know more about that, I'm curious to know.
I didn't read all of it because there was a lot that was posted in that thread. Like there's probably hours and hours
Yeah,
of
no,
stuff to
there's a
go
lot. It's
through.
really busy.
But I did see something about how like the character's HP would actually be affected when they're in this arena, and they would have to like replenish their HP before they could play another match. So, you know, how do you do that outside of health potions? There's not like an inn you can go to at the moment. There's no way to actually like the, you know, DFK at the moment doesn't use the HP. Like it's there, but there's no actual use for it, and there's not a way to restore it because there's no way to lose it at the moment. So if you had this third party game, you know, you're losing your HP from now, and you can't start a match unless you have max HP.
And that's one of the
Now,
weird things that's going on right now is like the guy that's writing for the team is like, we will do what the community wants, kind of like we are willing to change and like augment the proposal, but it's like, well, we have to vote on this in a week.
yeah,
So people are like,
yeah.
well, go ahead and update that for us now. Like, are we supposed to like remember that Frisky Fox said this like 6 days ago in the
Well,
chat, or is like the proposal like definitely changing and like we're being notified of that?
something you said at
I
the
agree with you.
beginning of this kind of wrap up, I actually didn't think about it like that, and then you said it, and it kind of clicked where it's like this definitely was not something that when they came out with the grant proposal, a group of people were like, "Hey, let's do this thing." It was definitely something that like this was being worked on way before the grant proposal was even announced. So that's another kind of piece that I think is I don't want to say shady, but like kind of throws a red flag. Like I don't watch Lost, but somebody said that like all of the people involved's names are like Lost characters. That's
Yes, that.
like that's kind of a rip. Like I don't know, man. I'm not trying to like FUD it either, because I really do. I like the concept. It's just like the execution seems kind of. I
Totally,
don't
totally.
know.
And the guy said tonight, he said, he goes, because the other thing too is, I, and this may be incorrect, but that the first iteration is almost as simple as you won't know who like who you're going to be assigned against on a 1v1 combat, but it will be as simple as like my hero has 11 strength and yours has like 13 strength, and like yours beat me. And so if it's that kind of simple of like, hey, this is just like for fun and like, we're just gonna bet
Yeah,
some gold and oh, you beat me, oh, I beat you. It's like, okay, I'm down with that. But what he said tonight was that if like if it can't constantly be funded, then there will be this like, they have like big dreams and ambitions for like a second iteration. So they're very kind of
well,
clear about this being a first iteration. It's like, well, how much are we funding this?
they also want 100 grand a month for development, and I don't like that. Like they have 10 devs and a couple other people, and I'm not sure why they would need 100 grand a month to fund like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
I
You're
don't
I
know.
right.
mean,
That's
it's
my
like
two
it's
cents.
like a grant proposal, right? So like if it was is this like a company that like already formed and like has like people on payroll, or is this like a project coming from the community? And I think that's probably why the community is responding the way it has, because like they want to see projects from the community, and this for some reason doesn't feel like it's actually from the community.
Well, the other criticism is like what it sounds like they're making is almost this like unilateral third party where it's like name an NFT arena. So it's like X arena, NFT arena. So it's like this could be like really applied. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I'm not, I don't know. But it's
Right,
just,
right.
it doesn't even seem like it's like a specifically for DeFi
A couple
Kingdoms
months
thing.
later,
It's
they
like,
come out with Basie Arena and all that.
yeah, they just need to figure out how to work with like smart contracts and get the get their game mechanics right and like their revenue share agreements with teams figured out, and then they can like go on about their way. Spoof, you were gonna say something, I think.
No, I was just saying you're entirely right. Like what's the word? Being skeptic of the $100,000 a month because you definitely don't need that. Sorry, I'm laying in bed right now. I'm like half asleep, but yeah, no, that's not justified even for 10 people.
Yeah.
What you're asking is for DFK for this grant proposal to basically subsidize your life or your lifestyle while you get to just build, which is like, I mean, it's cool. It'd be nice. Anybody would love that, but I don't know. I think you need a way bigger project to ask for something like that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, to be honest.
Hey, Tanner says no mic in AMA, but I agree they want 100K a month plus. Oh yeah, plus the 10% rake. Yeah, we didn't even get into that. Yeah, they want 10% from every wager. That might be 100K on its own,
That's also crazy.
right?
Even I read one of the comments that was talking like you need to bring that down to like, maybe 2 to 5% on every transaction.
I mean,
Even
bro,
then, like,
DFK devs are taking 3.75%. Like, come on now.
right. Yeah. A little bit. So not only do you want what is it? So it's 10 grand a month per dev or per team member, then you want to pocket a ton of money from everybody's transactions.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
I think it's being figured out, to be determined, to be figured out, to be discussed. So with that, I will leave it at that. Thanks everyone for tuning in, participating. This is a weekly thing, whereas weekly is they keep the AMAs coming. Other than that, I'm gonna close out. Peace out.